maybe a minute earlier than I said, but that's okay. So it is a super great day. It is the 18th of June, and on June 21st is the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. You have the most hours to originate new business as a realtor or a loan officer. It's also my son's birthday. That's how I know it's the summer solstice. And so we do this event once a month for our realtor partners, for free as a way of giving back. We usually get top realtors from across the nation to share their tactics, their best practices, to teach you guys how to get more business. And I think it's the middle of the year. And so I asked my friend Todd and my boss and the owner of Summit Funding if he could give us a mid-year market, outlook. I really see some challenges in the real estate market right now. And I think that every time I've been challenged, if I choose to see it as opportunity, I've always grown. And so when the market's flat, I don't think there's a lot of opportunity. But with inventory rising and with the Fed doing whatever, I think there's a lot of opportunities for real estate agents to get market share, honestly. And so I just wanted to ask Todd to come on and talk about the market, because I work for Todd for, not because he's my friend, not because we were college roommates. I don't. I work for Todd because he's the smartest mortgage guy I know. And he spends most of his days, the hours of his work days, he educates himself. He's a ferocious reader, ferocious. Like, it annoys me how much books he reads. He's educated in college, but he's also self-educated in business. And he just knows a lot, and he has a gift. Like, I can really do a decent job of looking 3 to 6 months out. But one of the reasons I work for Todd is he has a gift for looking 3 years out. And he always has. And it's time and time again, he's proven it. Even when I didn't agree with him, later on I found out he was pretty close to right. So I think he's got a lot of good stuff to tell you, and I think he's someone to listen to. Todd, thanks for being my friend and my boss, but mostly thanks for giving your time to speak to all these good people. I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to not be around. See you, bye.
Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. It's an honor to speak to this. I feel like I've begged to come on here. Jonas and Jim run this, and I'm like, hey, can you put the man in someday? Like, can I put the player in, coach? I want to play. So it's an honor to give back to all of our realtor partners. Someone's been in business 28 years, and we literally did it through you. Realtors and builders are our clients. That's our biggest clients. So I appreciate all the business. I want to start off by saying that. I'm going to tell you a story, 2 quick stories to illustrate a point. One is that when I was young, I was 3rd grade, and I grew up in the mountains, and it snowed there. My mom got all excited a few months before. We were very poor, and she brought home. She says, "Honey, look at what I got you," and she pulls out this outer blue jacket, and it was a ski jacket, and it snowed where we're at. The problem was it had a pink stripe down the side of the jacket. And I instantly recognized that jacket as a girl's jacket. And I was not going to wear a girl's jacket. However, it's all I had. And so mom didn't realize, I could tell by her reaction, she didn't realize it was a girl's jacket. And I didn't say anything because I was embarrassed, and I knew she got it for free at the Salvation Army. So I literally, a couple months later, snow comes. I start running out the door in a t-shirt, and she's like, "God, get back here, put on this jacket." And I had to go wear the girl's jacket to the bus stop. And I didn't get within 20 yards of the bus stop, and the kids started calling me girly boy and saying I was wearing a girl's jacket. And I kind of realized at that moment, I'm like, I'm not going to be poor. I'm not doing it. Like, I don't know what I got to do. I'm only a 3rd grader, but I had a distinct feeling that I wasn't going to be ashamed. I wasn't going to have to wear hand-me-down clothes, and I was going to find a way to make some money. Okay. So fast forward, when I was 16, I started working for my dad, and I remember I got a first decent paycheck, I think for 2 weeks or a month. I remember the check was $224 after taxes. And I was waiting in the teller line and to deposit my check, and all I could think of was, how could I save most of this money so that that money could make more money later? And I tell you those stories because we all have reference points. And what Jim said earlier, like, I've been doing this. This is now my 30th year in mortgage. I've owned Summit for 28 years. And this is the toughest I ever seen it. And I don't want to sugarcoat because I don't like people that sugarcoat stuff. This last 2+ years has been brutal. And of course, it doesn't help that we came out of a tremendous time. But what Jim also said is it's a time to innovate. And, I was talking to one of my divisionals back east this morning, and one of our loan officers didn't make it. And so I was asking him, hey, what happened? He's all, man, she just couldn't even close a loan a month. And I said, well, it's like the nature stories that we all see, where the lion doesn't go after the healthy gazelle, he goes after the gazelle with the broken hoof. Well, we're going to talk about the market for a little bit, but mainly what we're going to talk about is marketing and sales. And the reason we're going to do that is because those individuals that sell and market correctly are going to do good in this market and really great when the market returns. And what I'm concerned about for you as individuals is, how do we take this time? How do we retool ourselves so that we can crush it? And it's okay to struggle. Like, life is hard, right? Let's get over that. Like, no one told me life was going to be easy. But this particular time in our industry has been really hard. So, Rebecca, let's show, again, the market slides. Go to the next page. I'm just going to cover some of these basics because I don't want to waste our time on some of this stuff. I do a lot of research. So 60% of Americans today have a interest rate on their house of 4% or less, and they're not moving. And I just put an example in here on a $300,000 loan amount. The difference between a 4% rate and a 7% rate is $557 a month. So this is, people are kind of squatting in their homes, and we all know it. And so the market has shrunk. Now, this is national mortgage volume, which of course translate into real estate transactions. Currently, the last 12 months, as of April 2024, the mortgage industry did 1.2 trillion in residential loans. In a normal market, what if there is such a thing, it would be about 2.1 trillion. So you can see that we're down about 43% from a quote unquote normal market. That's a big change. Now, we realize that, there's all these stats shown out there where the number of realtors or the number of loan officers is going down. However, really what we've got to do is go get more market share. So the theme of today's call is how to build your own market. And we're going to talk in depth about that. Next page. There's a lot of issues out there. I don't think we need to talk about them. We've got inflation, we've got political unrest, we've got wars going on, we've got an election coming up, we've got the NAR stuff facing the real estate industry. And all of that leads to one common problem, is that the industry is starting to feel that real estate sales and I would say mortgage lending is being commoditized. And commoditization is the feeling that our product or service is the same as everyone else's. And so if that's what's going on, we have to find a way to come across differently to the consumer. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how do we create our own market and come across differently and take massive action around that so that we can get more sales. Because I don't think, if you're on this, I don't think anyone wants to get out of the business. I mean, I talked to a friend of mine a week ago, and she was a pretty decent realtor. And now I just talking to her about a deal she called me about. She closed one escrow in 4 months. And she's got 2 part-time jobs to supplement her income. And I appreciate her tenacity doing what she's got to do. But the truth is, if she was just better at marketing and sales, she closed one transaction, made $21,000. She works at these other jobs to make $500-600 a week. So if we're in the right industry, it's just going through a hard time right now. And we've got to find out how to do better marketing and sales so that we can reap the rewards and stay in the business and make money and save money. So all of these things going on leads to a feeling of uncertainty, which causes consumers not to buy. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but what happens is people freeze. And so we got to find either another target market that isn't frozen, or we've got to find ways to unfreeze the people that feel scared and don't want to take action. Okay. So next page, we talk about some big ideas on how to win. So a couple of these things are emotional because I think our belief system determines our emotions, and our emotions get sideways and then we don't sell well. So just a couple things on that, because I think it's important. I think the first thing is realize life is hard. It's not supposed to be easy. And that is a belief system that I have always thought of. You know, to prove this, think about the hardest job you ever had in your life. Matter of fact, if you have something, put it in the chat. And by the way, you can put your questions in the chat too, and I'll get to as many as I can before we close. But I want you to put the hardest, worst job you ever had in your life. For me, mine was bucking hay on a farm for 2 summers in a row to get paid $3.50 an hour. That is backbreaking, really hard work. You get stung by bees, you stinky, you got to stack the hay. Like, it's a horrible job, okay? A lot of us have had horrible jobs. But again, that was a reference point for me. So today, when you say, Todd, how was your day? And I said, well, I called some people, I sold some stuff, I went to sushi with a client. Like, I don't ever think my life is hard because my reference point is bucking hay during the summer. And I think that helps me to diminish entitlement and to realize that I've got to work hard every single day, okay? Now, the other thing I would say is every industry goes through cycles. And I had a chance to talk a couple years in a row with Tony Robbins at this event, and he explained it as spring, summer, winter, and fall. And I just thought it was a good metaphor. So spring might be things are heating up. Summer is 2020 and 2021 for all of us, like everyone's buying a house. Winter is, hey, will the rain ever stop, right? Which is probably how most of us feel right now. And then you got fall where things are thawing out and starting to get a little bit better. So is our industry in winter or fall? I don't really know. It's one of the two. I think in general, we're probably in this for another year or two. That's my best guess, and it is a total guess. I don't think there's anything coming to save us. A bunch of lenders were hoping that rates would go back down. They're not coming back down any day soon. You know, the government was throwing around some ideas on tax credit if someone sold a house or bought a house. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. But I wake up every day thinking, hey, nothing's going to save me. So I've got to take massive action myself. I've got to save myself. Okay. Well, the two things that I know do work is more contact and better contact. So we're going to talk about how to create our own market by using more contact to more specific people and better contact, which is what we say and how we say it. So before we go there, I'll tell you one quick story, because back in '94, I was about a year in the mortgage business and rates went up 2.5% in 2 months. Some of you guys were probably in the business back then. And the market froze. I'm talking froze. I mean, the valve shut off for a while. The company I worked for at the time, we had 44 loan officers. We went down to 13 or 14 in a matter of months. So I went to a mentor, and I actually had just met him, but he was a super good salesperson. And I just kind of idolized this guy for his prowess around sales. And he said, I said, can I make an appointment with you? He says, yeah. So I come in, he says, I'll give you 20 minutes. So I go in there, drove across town to his office, sat down in front of him. I said, hey, I need some help. He said, what's going on? I said, well, I closed one deal last month. And he says, well, that sucks. Can you stay in the business? I said, I just got out of college. I don't have a lot of overhead, but I can't close one deal a month forever. Like, it's not going to pay the bills. He says, make more calls. And I said, well, what do I say? He says, I'm not telling you anything else. Just make more calls and you'll make more money. And he was got kind of mean and nasty. So I said, well, how many is that a day? He says 20 a day. Okay. So I just started making 20 phone calls a day. Now, in reality, when I look back, I could tell myself I was making a lot of calls, but in reality, I was probably making about 3 a day. So when I started doing 20 every single day, nonstop, every single day, didn't miss a day. The next month I had was the next month or the month after, I had my biggest month ever by far. And I never really looked back from that. Like I went from making a couple $100,000 a year to 400,000 a year to 800,000 a year to over $1 million a year. I never looked back. And so I believe that we don't talk enough about activity in sales. And I don't think we talk about create our own market enough in sales. So let's delve into this a little bit more. Let's talk about more contact. Okay. Next page. So here's some ideas about more contact. These are just ideas. I want to open your brain for a second. Okay. There's some of you guys know this, but most of you don't. There's a way to take, this is about 2018. I was lucky enough to coach the #1 buyer's agent in America. He averaged 40 closings a month. This is how 80% of his deals, where they came from. He learned how to use social media to boost open houses. So he went into a 10-mile radius and he just force fed in your feed, hey, this open house down the street is open on Saturday. Okay. What that did for him is it increased his traffic by 4 or 5 times. And then he taught me another technique on what to say to the person when they walked in the open house, so that I could get 70% of their names and phone numbers and cell phones and the type of house that they were looking for, so that I could follow up a couple of days later. So that's an example of, and a lot of people, there's people when I just said that said, Todd, open houses don't work. Here's what I'll tell you. Almost anything will work if you figure out how to do it correctly. So open houses do and can work. I use this strategy when I coach realtors sometimes, and it works great. But it takes a little bit of learning. Like it takes 4 or 5 hours to learn how to do that. Sending personalized text to your database. Maybe you're having a party. Maybe you're hosting an event. You know, there's simple things. Reach app is one of them where you can, I think it's $12 a month, and you could personally text all of your clients. Once you get used to using it, you could do it, and you could reach 500 people in about 30 minutes. Okay. So that's an example of more contact. Finding a list of investors. I'm going to use this investor one as a theme as I go through this. So it's a little bit hard to find this database. I actually own, one of the companies I own is a advertising agency. And so we've learned how to do all these tricky things. So I can get a database of 500 investors in your town that own 3 or more properties. And these are people that are buying homes. They might buy 2, 3, 4, 5 homes a year. And if you had 10 of those, you'd probably close 20 deals just from this strategy. Okay. So, but we would have to contact them and we would have to say the right things. So we'll talk about what to say in a second. There's some AI voice technology out there. I use this a little bit. It's fairly new to me, but it's where an AI voice will say, call someone and leave a voicemail. And it sounds just like me. I always say it's an AI voice because I don't want to be deceptive. But I say, hey, this is Todd. This is my AI voice calling you. And I wanted to let you know about this. Okay. And so for me to sit down and call 500 people would probably take me 2 or 3 days, where this computer will do it in about 30 seconds. So this is some ways to contact more people. You know, this is an old one, but it works. Putting on happy hours for your past clients. And people say, Todd, I'm worried that no one will show up. Listen, I've done happy hours with past clients and 3 people show up and I walk out with a deal. Because there's something about getting face-to-face with people that's a lost art, right? There's something about getting face-to-face with someone that's a lost art. My mom had lung surgery. She has lung cancer. And last Monday, I went up there, stayed the night with her, took her to the hospital in the morning, ended up leaving Tuesday night. She's fine. She's recovering. I could have FaceTimed her, but it's not the same. And I use that example because it's also not the same for you. A lot of you have been using technology too much to replace the personal meeting. What you're going to hear from me is use technology to get the meeting, but you still got to have the meeting. So there's a lot of confusion on this. I think COVID kind of screwed us up. Hey, we never got to see a client again. We'll Zoom everything. And guys, it just doesn't work. Educational events to your sphere of influence. And people, when you get to this, people are always like, how do I say? Guys, if you have a decent database and you hired a tax attorney to talk about how to save money on taxes, you would get 10, 20, 30 people to show up. And you would probably get 1 or 2 deals. So, you know, a lot of this contact stuff, it's almost, and when I say this, guys, I'm saying this about me and you. I think we got lazy. I think we just got lazy. And a lot of stuff that we used to do that worked, we thought we didn't have to do anymore because we went through this weird COVID time. By the way, just the stats are, we did in 2 years, we sold 8 years worth of homes. You heard me correctly. Let me say it again. In 2 years during COVID, we sold 8 years worth of homes. So it's normal that we're going to have this lull coming out of that because we pre-sold a bunch of homes and people needed to buy any homes anymore. Okay. That doesn't mean we get out of the business. That means we find a way to get more deals. We create our own market. Okay. Next page. Better contact. Real estate and mortgage sales are plagued with what I call it the sea of sameness. Like everyone seems to be the same. It all feels and looks the same. What customers really want is more value. So when we contact you, you're going to have to provide some item of value. I call it a hook. It's just my nickname for it. Okay. And I want to go over some marketing ideas that have a much better chance of landing with the customer and yielding an actual response. And so, guys, if you think about it, great companies provide great value. There's a reason that we go to a restaurant. There's a reason we order something on Amazon. There's a reason that someone buys a Tesla over some other electric car. Now, the value that's created by these companies, it can be real or it can be a perception, but both work the same. If I just feel like Tesla is a better car, I don't have any logical proof, I'd probably still buy a Tesla if I feel that way. Is it better than a Ford Fusion? I have no idea. I'm not a car guy. But if someone feels like a Tesla is better than a Ford Fusion, they're going to buy that car instead of a Ford Fusion if they can. So, okay, so let's go through some examples. This gets into creating your own market. Now, I want you to pay attention to this because it's very rare that people do this in real estate and mortgage. Next page. Let's say that you had investors. And again, I've learned how to create that list. It's actually using 3 different databases, and we create this list of all the investors in a town that buy real estate on a regular basis. Well, what they want, because you guys know investors, they want rate of return. So if I presented myself as a realtor that specialized in investors getting a 20% rate of return on purchasing property, I'm going to meet with you. Or let me say that better. I have a better chance of meeting with you. If you're marketing to me via social media and emails and texting and calls and all this stuff that we do, and I'm an investor and I own 10 properties and I want to buy 2 properties a year, and you present yourself as an investment specialist that only focuses on selling you properties where you can get a 20% or more greater rate of return, I'm going to meet with you. I'm going to DM you. I'm going to respond to your email. Not all 500 of them, but maybe 10 a week Maybe that leads to 2 meetings a week with qualified investors. And now I've got a working relationship with them. And I show them when I meet with them how I do what I do. And they end the meeting, they're kind of like, that's different. Now, what's interesting is over 20% of all homes in America are bought by investors. But I've never, I'm sure there is, but I personally have never seen a realtor focus on that niche. Just let that sink in for a second. Well, Todd, I'm a realtor. I help everybody. Well, when you come across that way to people, it'd be like you walking into my restaurant and I say, hey, Jane, what are you doing? I'm Todd. I'm the owner of this restaurant. What do you have today? I've got some hot dogs back there. I got some Chinese food I made last night. I got some sushi, some fish I bought about a week ago. Maybe I'll whip you up some sushi. And you're like, Todd, that's not how restaurants operate. And you're right, because no one would go there. Restaurants say, hey, I specialize in sushi. I specialize in Chinese food. We got the best Chinese food you've ever had. But when I call it the sea of sameness, and people just look at you, and you're like, well, I help everybody who has a real estate need. What happens is I don't identify with you. I just think you're like everybody else. So I don't want you to get stuck on some of these ideas. I want you to get stuck on the concept that you need to create a database and go after people specifically with what they're looking for. An investor wants a rate of return. If you called me and said, Todd, I know I help investors get a 20% rate of return on their investments, I'm going to meet with you. That's going to be much better than you saying, Todd, I just called you because I sell real estate and I know you buy some real estate. That doesn't land with me, okay? Second one here is I help those who speak Spanish purchase homes in 30 days, even if they're not a US citizen or don't have a social security number. Now, I use this one in my advertising agency, and it's very effective. Very effective. So if you're Spanish speaking or you speak another language, you should be using that in your marketing. Do you know on social media, you can actually only market to Spanish speaking people? You can only market to Ukrainian speaking people. That's one of the choices on the backside of Instagram and Facebook and some of these other formats. So you can communicate with them, you can target market them, and that's going to give you a leg up on everybody else in a sea of sameness where everything seems the same. Okay. I help homeowners that have at least a $750,000 home sell their home for 15% more than other realtors. Well, if I'm a person that owns $1 million home, I want to sell my home for max price. So you're going to speak to me. You're going to speak to me with something written like that or advertising like that. And of course, you can target market all those people. If you're into farming, you could tell, hey, the average person in this area keeps their home 7 years. So let me market to people that are 6 to 10 years owning their home, that have a home of $1 million or more. And you could specifically market to them. And if you had a message like this that would resonate with some of them, then they have a higher chance of contacting you, okay? So I sell your home in 30 days for max price, or I sell your home for free. Now, I've seen realtors, I coached a realtor years ago that used this one. She was the #1 realtor in her state. I coached her for 8 years. So again, her messaging was, hey, I'm going to sell your home for max price. If I can't, I'm going to sell it for free. Now, some of you go to the place you're like, Todd, I don't want to do any deals for free commission. No, you don't. But let's say that you got 15 sales because of this, and one of them you had to do for free. So you made $400,000 and you did one deal for free. Now would you do it? So don't be afraid to be bold. Don't be afraid to step out on the skinny branches. Offer a guarantee, right? Don't be afraid of doing that, okay? The next one says, add $300,000 in value and collect $2,000 in rent by adding a rental unit to your property. So this is about someone selling ADUs. ADUs are very popular. Some of you guys know some of the law changes around ADUs. There are people within 5 miles of you that want to put an ADU on their property so they can rent it, or so their mom could live in it, and you could get paid a commission on that. So, you know, this what is they skate to where the puck is going? If people are squatting in their houses, but they need more room, they're going to add an ADU. So if you can identify that market and talk to them clearly, that you're going to have a chance of getting sales. Okay. I got a guy a friend of mine that owns an ADU company. He's doing 45 deals a month. And he'll pay realtors. He does pay realtors. So you're like, Todd, these ADUs are only 300,000 or 200,000. It's a commission, right? Sometimes in a hard market, we got to do things, either go back to the basics and we got to learn new skills. And that's what we're talking about today. So when I talk about creating your own market, this is a way to create your own market. Let's go to the next page. Here's just a couple more examples. Manufactured housing. Guys, you can build a manufactured house all in, including land and all this stuff, for about 300,000, 350,000. If it's a small house, it'd be like 250,000. So a lot of these people, you know, there's, again, you guys probably know this, but when you talk about the affordability index, it used to be 4 years ago, 47% of Americans could buy a house. Now it's down to 28%. They can't afford a $600,000 house. The average American household income is $78,000 last year. So, you know, I know that we're selling property today. Those people make 150, 300,000, but there's a big gap there. So this is a way to fill that gap. So you could specialize in manufactured housing. You could easily do this one. This is a home run, okay? Home builders. Biggest realtor I ever coached. What he does is help home builders sell their contingent sales. Literally, I coached him for 15 years, averaged 600 sides a year. 600 in a year. So this works, but you would have to specialize in that. You would have to go see tons of home building offices. You would have to get to know the realtors. You would have to get to know the managers, and you would start getting people that need to sell their house so that they could buy the builder's new house. Okay, what we're talking about is creating your own market by niching and communicating to that niche. Okay, this is just finding home builders raw land to entitle. Again, a little more complicated. Now, some of you are like, Todd, I don't know that market. Fine, get to know it. Like, what I'm saying is, what we're going through right now, you guys know, this is a way of explaining, this is metaphorically explaining what's happening. You guys, if you look at the statistics between the rich and the poor gap in America, it is definitely widened. Like, you cannot argue with it. The rich got a lot richer and the poor got poorer. Guess what's going to happen in real estate? We see this in mortgage lending right now. You know, I got Chris Clocks on here. He's closing 25 loans this month. He's a loan officer. He's been in the business 3 years. He closing 25 loans. But I just talked to one of my loan officers back east, having to leave the business because she closed 4 loans in 9 months, and she can't survive. She can't live. She can't feed her children. So my point is, what you're going to see in this market is a widening gap of people that know how to sell and market and those that are stuck in the sea of sameness. And you're going to see realtors that are closing a lot more deals than everybody else. So the top 10 or 20% will do more deals, significantly more deals, and the low producers become even lower producers. That's what's happening right now. And some people are confused by that. They're like, how could that be happening? Because some people know how to sell and market, and they take classes like you're doing right now, and some people don't. And they stick their head in the sand and they freeze. Like, Todd, I just want to wait until the market improves. It didn't used to be this way. It's so hard. Well, nothing's coming to save us. That's one of my main points today. Don't wait for the market to save you, because you'll probably be waiting 2 or 3 more years. I don't think there's any logical reason why we're not going to be in this market for another 2 years. And I'm not saying that to be Debbie Downer. It's just statistics. Like, it's just there's nothing that's going to change that's going to create that. Okay. So if we're in a really tough market where overall sales are down 40%, they're down 76% from the high during COVID. So it's a tough market. We're going to have to change. And part of the change is we have to create our own market. So real quick on the screen here is, what market should we go after? And if you get nothing else out of today, write this down, because this will change your life. Number one, people that are in pain. People that are in pain. We go to the doctor when we're bleeding. We go to the doctor when we're barfing. We don't just walk into the doctor, everything's great, I feel fabulous, right? People take action when they're in pain. So find people that are in pain. If I've got a family member right now looking for a realtor to sell his mother-in-law's home. His mother-in-law lives 3 hours away. She owns her house free and clear, and she had a stroke. They need to put her into a home. That is an example of pain. Okay, he has to make a decision. When we look at some of these other things that I mentioned, you know, all those people have pain points. And if you can identify them and target them, then that's a market you should go after. Number two, they can afford to buy or sell. Or if they're a referral partner, then they can actually send you business. So you want to target market people that are productive. If I try and target market someone who is over encumbered on their house, meaning they have negative equity, I guess I could probably do a short sale, but outside of that, I can't help them. So you want to target people that can either refer you business, or in case of a buyer or seller, they have the capacity to move. Okay. They can take action. Number three, you can clearly identify them. I'll give you an example. This database of investors, it takes a little work. Like, it takes some work to build this database, but I can tell you for sure, because I have done it several times, that you can get a database of all the investors in your market that own 3 or more homes or own 5 or more homes. You can get that list. It's public record. Okay. So you got to be able to identify them. And most salespeople never take the time to identify. And so what do? When we do make sales calls, we're calling on the wrong people. Not everyone wants to buy or sell a house. Not everyone can send you a bunch of business. So you have to identify them, and you got to be clear on that identification. Okay. The last one is that the market is growing. The market is growing. Okay. So when you think about this, like the number one growth market right now is Spanish-speaking Americans. That's the number one home buying growth market right now. You know, when you talk about mortgage loans, Summit Funding started, this is going to be self-serving for just a minute, but it does involve strategy. We took on, it's a long story, but we were able to take over these 2 companies that do these very unique portfolio loans. We in the industry, we call them non-QM loans. This is like DSCR loans for investors, I-10 loans, foreign nationals, bank statement loans, P&L loans, 1099. You got someone, we closed a deal last week. The guy had 5 1099s. We couldn't get him a regular loan. So he did one of these portfolio loans. He was turned down by 3 other lenders. We did an I-10 loan last month. They were turned down by 5 lenders. We closed the loan in 14 days. So last month, just to give you a feel, because this is these non-QM portfolio loans are growing. That's why I made that decision to take over those companies, because I needed the expertise in-house so that we could do them. So last month, we closed 62 of these non-QM loans that were turn downs from other lenders. 62. We closed a total of 140. but 62 of them were people that couldn't get financing any other way because hardly anyone knows how to do these loans. So that's a way that Summit can help you sell more properties. You get a turn down loan, you get a hard deal, send it our way so that we can look at it under these portfolio lending guidelines, and we can see if we can help you put a deal together and save a commission. Okay. Okay, next page. By the way, guys, put your questions in the chat. So when you have questions, put them in the chat, because I want, my only goal in doing this is to help you sell more property, period. Okay, sell more property. Okay. You know, one of the things that I talk about a lot is developing new skills. Now, humans, you can say whatever you want, guys. We hate to change. But it's the ones that decide to change that make the money. I'm just telling you. Like, people say, it makes me feel uncomfortable. I tell people, I was talking to someone last week. I said, you know, I feel uncomfortable every day of my life. And he's like, you do? I said, every single day. But I've just gotten used to, my belief system is when I feel uncomfortable, I'm learning. I'm learning. And that learning is going to help me make more money. So when you feel uncomfortable, it's a good thing. Now that's totally different than how most humans think about it. Okay. But that is the proper way to think about it. Okay. Number two is time. And I was coaching someone last week. He's like, Todd, I'm doing so many deals a month. Like, I'm running out of time. I can't work on my business. I can't get the database done. I can't get the marketing done. I can't get the flyer done. I said, get up at 4 a.m. Get up at 5 a.m. He's all, are you joking me? I said, no. I said, spend the first 3 hours, 4 hours, twice a week. Maybe you do it every Tuesday and Friday, and work on your business. Todd, I don't know how to develop the investor list. Get up early and figure it out. Meet with a Summit Funding loan officer and they'll teach you how to do it. Like, there's resources, but all that stuff takes time. So it takes time to change. It takes time to work on your business. So I just wanted to slip this in there so that people realize, until you can afford to hire people to do this for you, we got to do it ourselves. And most people are never willing to get up early and work on the business, work on the marketing plan, work on the flyer, learn Canva, learn the Reach software. They don't ever take the time. They try and do it during business hours, and then they're really not closing any deals. So don't do it during business hours. You'll never regret taking 6 months of your life, getting up 3 hours earlier, and banging out a bunch of projects. Because that is ultimately what leads to your success. And I just wanted to throw that out there because so many people, they're like, Todd, I don't have the time. You're going to have to create the time. If you want to make a lot of money, you're going to have to create the time. Okay. Or maybe it's on the weekend. Okay. My point is, we have a choice. Now let's talk about how to be consistent. Todd, you're screaming a lot of stuff. How do we be consistent? Next page. Here's what I teach people to do. You create a list of 500 avatars. So your avatar is a fancy word for your target market. So it could be builders, it could be investors, it could be Spanish-speaking people that don't own a house. But we need to develop a list. And this list is what we tackle every single day. How do we tackle them? Well, we create an offer that entices them, gives them a reason to respond. Again, if I'm an investor and you say, Todd, I want to meet you, I sell real estate. I'm not interested. If you say, Todd, I'm a realtor that specializes in working with investors, and I make sure I find properties for you that you can get a 20% cash on cash return. I'm interested. 100% I'm interested. Because you said it different. You're separating yourself from the crowd. Okay. And I would call 20 of those people a day and ask for a meeting. If I got one meeting a day with someone who could send me business and I got a chance to present to them, I'm going to do a lot of business. So the simple math is, guys, if you can just meet with one person from your target market a day, you're going to sell a lot of real estate. Now, this is pretty simple. Target list, okay, it may take 6 hours to develop that list, then 20 calls a day, okay, it takes about an hour, hour and a half a day, and you're telling me I'll make a lot of money. Yes, I am. If you think about it for a second, guys, and this is hard to talk to because there's all kinds of different levels of individuals on this call. But if you're not closing 20 plus deals a year, you're not doing this. You're just not making enough calls in the proper way. Okay. Now here's a verbal example. If I got one new appointment per day for a buyer listing or even a referral account is someone that could send you 2 closed transactions a year. That would be 20 people you meet with a month. That would lead to 3 closings, which would be about 37 grand a month in commissions. That's just an example of how the numbers play out. Guys, we're in a contact sport, and so we got to contact a lot of people. That's the whole point. You're in charge of that. No one tells me how many calls you can make or not make a day. Okay, so you're in charge of that. So how you create your own market is you develop a list, you develop an offer to go with it, and then you make a bunch of calls. And you're like, Todd, that seems too simple. It is, but most people won't do it. But we'll sit there and bitch about how little money we're making or how bad the economy is. And the problem is that doesn't solve the problem. What solves the problem is this. And if you just delve into it, you're going to be shocked. Shocked. There's a guy, I'll tell you this quick story, and then we're going to wrap up and then we're going to do Q&A. I have this coaching program, and he's not making his calls. So we're on a call, and guys, just for reference, I rarely do this, but I lost it. I mean, I completely went bananas on this guy. And then I called him afterwards and we argued again. Actually, it wasn't much of an argument. It was me yelling at him. And he was trying to defend himself and I wouldn't let him do it. I said, bud, you just have so much phone phobia that you are killing yourself. You're literally going to be out of the business. This is a guy that was closing, he's a lender, was closing about 2 deals a month, which isn't enough for him to live. So we had this big argument. He starts making his calls. We track all of his calls in the CRM, so I see he's making his calls. I text him a couple times, say, hey, bud, I'm proud of you. He starts acting better on the coaching call. So a month goes by. I'm out watching my daughter ride horses, which is what I do on a Friday afternoon. And I'm watching her ride horses. He texts me, he says, hey, boss, I closed 8 deals and originated 17 more. So I call him. I said, bud, what did you say you did? He says, I closed 8 deals and I originated 17 new ones. And I said, how do you feel? He calls me boss. He says, boss, I feel so confident that I can replicate this every single month of my life. That was about 3 months ago. And every single month he's had similar months. Because he's doing the work. And he's saying it in the proper way. We got all his avatars done. We did all this stuff. And he's just making the calls. Okay. Last page, Rebecca. This is just a visual of what this looks like. So we got an area of specialization. It doesn't have to be one of the ones I covered. That's just me brainstorming with you. But what happens in real estate and mortgage lending is people never specialize. And then we wonder why we don't make much money. The reason you're going to get a bunch of deals. Like, give an example. If you took my investor idea, you're going to do a bunch of investment loans. But the investor is also going to call you for their personal house that they're selling for $2 million. So the area of specialization does not mean that's all you do. It just opens the door for you to show how you can help people in a specific way. Then we create a database of 500 people to go after. We're not going to do business with 500 people. We might only do business with 30 of them a year. But we got to have a sizable database of real people that have a real problem that we can identify and then go after them. Okay. Then we make 20 calls a day to produce one meeting. Like, Todd, that's a lot of calls. Listen, guys, you could have one meeting that makes you $30,000. So I think sometimes we don't understand the math. We're selling not a lot of properties, but we're getting big paychecks. And so you don't need that many. For most of you, if you were closing 3 deals a month, it would be more money than you ever dreamed of. So, and it's not that hard if you do this to get 3 deals closed a month. It is not. I know it feels that way right now. It is not. Okay. The last thing is you got to do a great presentation. So you got to be able to show people what you do in a succinct way so that you get done and they're like, that's my person. That's my person. I'm going to use them. Okay. And that presentation, similar to all the stuff going on with the commission debacle, you're going to have to present to your clients. That presentation is about building trust and credibility and getting them to understand why you're worth 3%. It's the same thing. So as you're learning that presentation, for those that haven't done it before, it's the same thing, just a little twist to it. You're just showing maybe the investor how to get 20%. How do you do that? You got to show them how you do that so that they believe you. If you don't know how to do that, you have to learn how to do that. So some of this pressure that we feel is us not learning the new skills that we need to learn, because we intuitively know that we don't know how to do it yet. But there's plenty of resources to figure out how to do that. Okay, Rebecca, you can stop sharing the screen. Let's do some Q&A. And I don't care if anyone who speaks up, any question is totally fine. It could be one of our summit people asking a clarifying question, but any question goes. Let's let it rip. Rebecca, can they unmute themselves and ask questions?
Yes, yes, they can.
Okay, just unmute yourself and ask a question. Am I totally crazy? God, you're crazy. James, you're unmuted. What do you got?
Question for you. Well, my hardest job, just saying, was I used to file files down in Tucson, Arizona for all the realtors here. So that was my hardest job. So every time I think about how hard our job is, it's actually pretty easy. Other than that, I don't have really any questions, Todd.
You know, James, not to tell you guys a sad story, but my brother calls me last night. And he's very emotional. And I'm like, what's going on? I thought it was something about my mom, right? And he says, hey, you know, they've got this couple that's their best friends. I said, you know, Charisse, and I said, yeah, what's going on? She had a brain aneurysm today. So this lady, 39 years old, died yesterday. Matter of fact, they unplugged her this morning. My point is this. We get to do this. We don't have to do it. We get to do it. And that's different. Last time I looked, selling someone a house is one of the biggest honors of our lives. You know, 70% of America's wealth is in their homes. So you are literally responsible for making these people money. 70% of their wealth. That's an honor and a privilege. And I think sometimes we need to be reminded of that. What we're doing here is a great, valuable service. What we're talking about on this call is how to do it more and more effectively so that we can consistently create results, not just when the market's good. So market's bad. All the bad market shows you is what you got to get better at. That's it.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
It's Erin and Jessica. How are you?
Hey, Erin.
Hey, I have a question. I'm watching this with Erin, and I was wondering from your perspective, what is it that real estate agents, those of us that are on this call, should be asking our lender partners to help us with to grow our business. So for example, you gave the list for the investors and the various tools that you guys have. And we want to grow our business and we want to do that with our lender partners. So give me as a realtor and those of us on the call what we should be asking our lenders so that we can together partner and grow business.
Yeah, I think Jessica, you have such a good question, and it's good to see you. Jessica, we got to spend some time at Aaron's wedding a couple months ago.
Yeah, so fun.
So here's the deal. I believe that realtors and lenders need to cuddle.
Yeah, we do.
And what I'm like, if you guys are why wouldn't you guys work on these marketing strategies together? And I can't give you a good reason, because last time I looked, every time a realtor does a deal, there's a chance for a loan. So I actually think that the NAR stuff will bring us closer together as well, because guess who they're going to ask? Guess who they're going to call, guys? And they say, hey, is Jessica worth 3%? She says,
yes.
I got a friend of mine of a friend, they'll do it for 1%. That question ain't going to come to you. It's going to come to the lender partner. So we need to cuddle again. We need to develop that trust with each other.
Well, we could ask that question with Aaron.
I'm just telling you guys, you got to cuddle with a lender, and yes, you should work on these things together. 100%. I mean,
call the list together, do the events together,
do the calls together. Like, hey, you take 10 a day, I'll take 10 a day. I mean, that's great synergy. Great synergy. So I appreciate you asking that question. I think that was the question of the day, because I look at people sometimes and they're so afraid to ask for help. They're so afraid to collaborate. You know, we get in this 100% commission business and it makes us think like in a vacuum, like those horses that have the blinders on. They're like, it's all about me. I either got to close a deal or I'm going to starve, you know. How about collaborating with each other?
Yeah.
That's where real business is.
Raising the hand.
Yeah. I was watching you. This is just, I know we got to go. I've been enamored with NVIDIA, and I've been watching podcasts from the CEO, and you know, that company is now worth $3 trillion from nowhere. Okay. And he said, they said, why don't you guys make your own chips? You have the Taiwanese make your own chips. He says, I'm not a chip maker. I'm a technologist. I'm not a chip maker. I don't know their business. So his point was, he says, we'll never be a chip maker ever. You understand, with $3 trillion, they could make their own chips, but they don't, because they'll lose the expertise. They'll lose the collaboration. And in our business, we got to stop being so lone rangers. We got to start working together with each other to create more business. You guys do one of these ideas, get a database together. You call 10, the lender calls 10. You're going to do a ton of business, right? And there's all kinds of ideas you could go after, but we got to create our own market. If we just wait until the market improves, I'm just telling you guys, that's not a good business plan. And that's what most people are doing. By the way, if you want this, the visuals from this, Rebecca at the end of this call, she sends it all out to the loan officers that are on the call. So just contact whichever loan officer invited you, and they'd be happy to send you this deck and set up a meeting with you guys on how to collaborate, because it's going to take off half the workload. That's the magic.